Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tyler. Together we make up Kovray, a couple that loves to play board games.
And video games.
Yes, correct.
All sorts of games.
Mm-hmm.
And it is strictly two-player month here on the Kovray channel in July 2022. Which means we're coming a lot of strictly two-player games.
Exactly.
And today we're bringing one to you, and we're also doing a
giveaway
of this game. And that game is
a clash of a video game into a board game. Kind of. Orlog!
Exactly. So it's taking a board game from within a video game and bringing it to life in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So Orlog is from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And I'm deeply disappointed because I've played probably almost all the Assassin's Creed games except this one.
Oh.
Like I
is
once
this like new or
I feel like it's newer. I don't think I've played all of them. I've stopped. I've played
Black Flag was the one that I stopped.
Yeah, I think Black Flag was
one.
the last one that I played, and I heard there's a lot of good ones, so I should get back into it. Especially if there's board games in it now.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll play Wingspan in the new Assassin's Creed. That could be fun.
Cool.
Well, anyway, Orlog is brought you by Ubisoft Studios and Hachette Board Games, and we're excited to talk to you about it today. Because in this game, you're essentially battling through dice between two opponents to see who will indeed win by getting their opponent down to 0 health points.
Exactly.
It's the battle.
And the great part about this is you get to try and use different god favors to make the game
Like Thor.
in your favor.
Or Odin.
Yeah.
Norse mythology.
Yes.
North. It's not North. I keep trying to say North, but it's Norse.
Anyways, let's give you an overview of how to play the game.
As always, you'll begin by setting up. We'll be showing you the beginner mode this time around. Each player will receive 15 health counter stones, a set of god favor cards, dice, and a bowl for your dice. Now you're ready to begin. You'll flip a coin to determine who plays first, and then play the game in rounds. In each round, there's 3 phases. Roll phase, god favor phase, and resolution phase. In the roll phase, you and your opponent will roll dice. You'll take turns rolling dice and deciding which ones you want to keep. You can roll up to 3 times and re-roll any of the dice between turns. Now what dice do is essentially dictate the attack, defense, and influence in the game. If you roll an axe or an arrow, you're doing melee or ranged damage. If you roll a helmet or a shield, you're blocking the melee or ranged damage. If you roll the hand, you're able to steal a god favor token from your opponent upon the resolution phase. Now, you'll notice some dice have a golden border around them. For each of the dice with the border you choose to keep, you'll obtain a god favor token, which you can use in the god favor phase, which is the second phase. Now, in this phase, players can choose one god favor to invoke. Then you will reveal to each other your choice. Now, in the beginner mode, you'll play with Thor's Strike, Eden's Rejuvenation, and Odin's Sacrifice. One allows you to deal damage, one allows you to gain your health back, and the other allows you to sacrifice your health to gain many God Favor tokens, which you can use on later turns. Now, God Favors are invoked in priority. God Favors the same priority are played and applied according to the player order that round. When a God Favor is invoked, its offering is presented and the effect is granted. Most God Favors are invoked after both players choose them, however, some of them do invoke after the resolution phase. So keep an eye on the text in the handy reference sheet or on the backs of the God Favor tokens. Now in the resolution phase, the dice rolled by both players are resolved against each other. Damage is dealt or blocked and tokens are gained or stolen. Now you keep playing until one player reduces the health of the other to 0. At that point, that player wins. And that's Orlog. Now the difference between the beginner mode and the casual mode is you're able to choose the 3 God Favor cards from the 20 available before the game. And the expert mode brings elements of banning and drafting the God Favor cards to elevate your strategic experience. Will you see the gates of Valhalla or Helheim?
Bum, 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 bum.
So the keyword for today's video is
favor.
This will be used in your giveaway, which we will explain later in this video. So what did you think?
Without getting too far into it, I thought it was a decent game.
I really liked the back and forth. I think it always felt tense. And I think there's just something about dice that makes me so happy because anytime you could maybe win if you roll just the right amount of dice. And that's, although the percentage is small of getting exactly what you need, it feels so good to roll and get it. So I love that thrill of it, but also the way to kind of manipulate it through the favors, through the golden outlines to get more god favors. So it's just overall a really fun game.
Anytime you play a dice game, there's always going to be some kind of like variance that you should expect.
Exactly.
Because that's exactly what dice rolling is. You're never going to statistically roll all of the dice exactly how you want them to. And when you do, it does feel really
statistically,
good.
one person probably can.
Yeah, it does feel really good. I won't argue with you there. But it's just like part of dice games.
That's true.
So I will say that. I instantly, as soon as we started playing this, I started looking at all of the different gods and like figuring out the cool little combos, because you get to pick 3 of them. And there are a lot of different like...
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
For now, I want to just jump into our comparables to say, like, if you enjoyed this game, would you enjoy Orlog?
Great idea, Tyler. So I'm gonna start off with my pick, which is Dice Throne.
Yes.
Now, Dice Throne is extremely exciting. You're going head to head with a similar purpose. You're rolling dice to essentially reduce your opponent's health to 0. I think this is basically Dice Throne light.
Yeah.
So it's very streamlined. It's very straightforward. Some dice cancel out the others. Some give you opportunities to steal favors, and then your gods are how you kind of create that variability game to game. Yeah. So I think if you really enjoyed Dice Throne, this is a lighter game that can get you to the table quick, or just play casually, because it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and because there's the different gods, like there's a bit of different strategy that comes along with this game.
Different variability.
Dice Throne, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? What's your comparable?
I actually said Rift Force. Ooh. Yeah, which is actually another strictly 2-player game.
Yep.
So if you're already have played that based on just finding it through the 2 players, the 2-player available games, Orlog is actually a really good game to check out too, because it has that style of drafting at the very beginning where you have to pick your I'll say elements for it is elements
Factions,
for Rift Force.
Think, eh?
Yeah, and then you pick your god favors for Orlog, and I think that like little drafting element with all you have to do while planning through the game to try and make sure you are the one that reaches and controls the Rift Force the fastest. I think Orlog has a lot of like similarities to that. Obviously, its take is more dice based, so there's that.
That's like the feel. Yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah. All right, so why should anybody check out Orlog?
Orlog is fun to say.
That's the main reason you should check it out right there.
Orlog. Say it 5 times fast.
Orlog.
It just like flows off your...
Yeah.
Orlog. Anyways, the reasons why you should check out this game is I like how it is pretty quick to play, easy to get to the table. I love the little bowls and the sound that the dice makes when you throw them.
Yeah.
It's very satisfying. It's also very easy to explain too. You're like, this sword, or the hatchet or the axe, you need the helmet to repel the melee attacks. Arrows, you need a shield. Yeah. So like it's fairly intuitive once you get into it. The hand will steal the god favors. Like it just happens.
If you are an Assassin's Creed fan, and if you've played the game that this is from, I think that this is like that's the first bridge right there.
That's true.
Is I think it's like a great game that does a good job at, from what I've heard, bringing alive this game.
Well, it's exactly the casual is exactly the same as it is in the video.
So it does a really good job at like bringing that to life in reality on your own table. So that's very cool.
And maybe your friends don't particularly enjoy board games, but they like video games and they've played Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Maybe this is the way it can just casually show up on the table and be set up. Yeah, and all of a sudden, you're playing the game. Fun.
Yeah. All right, the other thing that I would say is, I think because I've already talked about this slightly a bit, is there's like a lot of combos that you can kind of just like figure out. There's a book, like a two-pager that has all of the gods in it and all of their favors and their abilities. And literally after the first game, I took this sheet out and I was like, okay, which ones would I take?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started piecing together all the cool little combos that you can do, like by putting the 3 together. And I thought that was very cool. It begins to like combo off. People have to like really adjust to how you're playing based on knowing what gods they take. So I think that's really cool. And because there's so many different gods, a lot of different strategies can come through. So the game has a lot of discovery to it. And I think that's a really good point when you're trying to like think about the replayability of the game and just being able to introduce it to more and more people.
The other thing too is there's a beginner, casual, and an expert mode. So you can really play really casually introduction, use the same god favors. You can play casually, reselect them, or there's like a drafting mechanism, a banning mechanism. So the game definitely scales up if you want to play more competitively, and you get. There's a lot of replayability.
Well, yeah, and like once you start to learn the game a bit more too.
I can really see you sitting down and being like, okay, I'm going to ban this god, you're banning this one, we're going to draft, and then you know what? It's going to happen. I'm bringing you down, and I'm going to Valhalla.
We'll see about that.
This makes me happy because we just saw Thor, Love and Thunder, and there's a lot of references.
Well, because it's Norse related.
Norse.
All right, we just talked to you about why you should check it out, but why shouldn't you check it out?
Well, I think to your point is there are 20 different gods you can choose from that you can start, and there's 3 favors that you can bring to each game. Finding a combination, because in the casual mode you can just pick 3.
You just pick,
and trying to pick 3 out of 20 can be analysis paralysis nightmare. Because this one works really well with this one, but I don't want to take this one, and then you just get into that cycle, and that can be a little bit daunting at times. Luckily, there's a beginner mode that can kind of just play these 3 and then figure it out on your own as you go. But I think with so many choices of gods, it makes it a bit daunting and difficult to figure the whole game out, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that carries through towards the game, like actually playing it too, because like not only are you thinking about how can you maximize using your gods, because you're only allowed to use 1 in turn, and that's if you have the tokens available to use them. So you have to think about how you can get those tokens, you have to think about which one you're going to use, and then you also have to pay attention to what your opponent is using, because if it just so happens that they picked 3 different gods, then like it's a whole other game that now you're readjusting, you're always thinking about it, and it just kind of, it does make the game a little bit more difficult, but it all starts with that having to make those decisions.
And I think last thing I'll say too is if you're not into the battle, let's get your opponent's health down to 0, attacking with bows and axes, if that's not a theme that appeals to you, this game may not be for you as well. Because it is a dice combat game essentially, and you're trying to bring the other person down, and you're going to do some sneaky stuff to make that happen sometimes, which could be upsetting to the other player.
I'll sneak this one in there. Obviously because there's dice. We've already talked about this. There's some kind of randomness to it. If you...
All arrows.
If you're like a person who like tries to stay away from a lot of randomness in a game, basically just dice, then this one might not be for you, because it is heavily reliant on the outcome of your dice rolls.
So overall, what do we think?
Yeah, it's a decent game.
I really like it. I can see it being a game that we just casually have out, and we're like, hey, 10 minutes, let's quickly do this. Let's duke it out, see who wins. Loser cleans the dishes.
We have a dishwasher.
Puts the dishes in the dishwasher and scrubs the pan of all the oils.
All right, deal. The one thing I'll say, I think I say that all the time. I just gotta
The one thing.
I will say that I'm typically drawn, well, I have this thing with IPs where I'm either really drawn to them or like I'm really hesitant about them because I want to appreciate the game as it is and not for the IP that is associated with it.
And your thoughts here are?
Well, it's hard for me to stay here because the game is literally pulled from a game. So it's like another take on an IP.
That's a good point.
So like, I can appreciate this maybe a little bit more than I would normally with other IPs. Not to say that IP games are any worse than other games. It's just
There's some really good ones out there.
Yes, yeah. I just feel like sometimes like
the IP sells the game.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get what
And
you're
there
saying.
are a lot of great games out there that are not IP related, and I'm always going to push them.
Well, thank you so much for watching. We are doing an Orlog giveaway. Thank you to Hachette Games. Basically, the way to enter our giveaway is to use our code word, which was in the video somewhere, and answer the comment down below, including the code word. And you can do it in a sly way, where you just incorporate it sneakily. Or you don't have to do that either. You can just say, like, here's the code word, I have used it.
Yeah.
And tell us about if this is a game that intrigues you, what you think of it, if you played Assassin's Creed, if there's potentially a video game that you want to see the IP taken into a board game. You know, the world is your oyster for the questions today.
Yes. Do us a favor and answer those questions.
All of them. Just kidding. You don't have to.
Maybe not all of them.
You can just use the keyword and you'll be entered to Winter Orlog. The giveaway will run until the end of the month, I believe July 28th. But for all the terms and conditions...
I think you just said enter to winter.
Enter to winter.
Enter to winter. But yeah, Ilya's right. There are some terms and conditions that you need to know about, so we'll leave them down in the description below.
I believe this is a North America giveaway only, so keep an eye, or double check that in the description.
I'll just read it down below.
Read the description. And thank you so much. Hope you have a fantastic day. If you enjoyed our content,
give us that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, maybe even that bell notification, because we're on fire this month with strictly two-player videos and content all across our social media platforms.
We're on fire because it's so hot outside.
It is pretty warm out too. But until next time, this is us checking out. Bye!